Hello everyone, and welcome to my project on Japanese video games. One of the biggest industries in Japan is video games. It's a 333 billion yen industry in Japan, which is a lot of money. I'm going to try to focus this project more on video games that you see in Japan and not North America. Japanese people are really competitive when it comes to arcade games nowadays. Like if you walk into an arcade in Akihabara and see a Japanese guy playing a game and think to yourself, wow, he's really good at that game. He's probably like one of the best players in the world, so if you try that game and don't think you're good at it, just know he probably spends all of his money and his free time playing that one game. Some arcades will make you wear gloves while you play the games. There's a game called My, which is a game where you hit these buttons around a washing machine screen that has a lot of movement, but they make you wear gloves so you don't get your sweat on the machine. My falls under a genre of games called rhythm games, which is the genre I'm going to cover right now because it's probably the second most popular genre of games in Japan. Rhythm games have always been a big thing in Japan ever since the release of two games, Beatmania and Parappa the Rapper. These two games are still sort of big in Japan till this day. Parappa the Rapper is where you play as a dog and hit buttons on a PlayStation controller to the beat. It's a rather simple game and isn't anything like any other rhythm games in Japan. Beatmania is a VSRG, which means vertical scrolling rhythm game. It is an extremely difficult rhythm game. It has 7 buttons and a turntable that you spin to hit the red notes on the left. Rhythm games are very popular in Japan because they're kind of easy to learn, but the skill ceiling is extremely high. It's arguably the most difficult genre of video games that there is, and they're extremely addicting, in my opinion. I asked some Japanese natives why they like rhythm games, and one of them said, enticing visuals, great variety of music, and established brands. I mean, I disagree with enticing visuals and a great variety of music. I'll let you watch 10 seconds of this and you can tell me if it's enticing. I also disagree with a great variety of music. I mean, it really depends on the game. Like if you're playing Guitar Hero, you can mainly only listen to rock music and that's it. I'm not talking about Clone Hero, that's like a completely separate game. And if you're playing Sound Voltex, you'll probably just be listening to Kamiria songs and EDM because they're basically the only songs that are on there and that are actually fun to play. Tune FM has the same Vocaloid songs every other week and a bunch of Kamiria songs and EDM songs. So there really isn't a great variety in songs and rhythm games that are in Japanese arcades. When we start to talk about the rhythm games that we can play at home, you might be familiar with games like Osu, Clone Hero, and Beat Saber. These games have a great variety of music. So if you're ever interested in playing a rhythm game, I recommend any of these. Just because they'll actually have music that North Americans will like and not just Denpa music or EDM. If you don't know what Denpa music is, it's basically dance music with high-pitched Japanese girls singing random stuff. Here's an example of Denpa music. And also, just so you know, Denpa music is probably the second most popular genre of music in rhythm games. Some popular rhythm games in Japan are My, which is a washing machine screen game. Kitadoro, which is a German rhythm game. Second of Tatsujin, another German game, also probably the easiest rhythm game. Sound Voltex, a VSRG that is extremely complicated and difficult. Dance Evolution, which is kind of just like a Just Dance clone. And Shunitham, which is a piano game. All of these rhythm games are extremely difficult and they are very popular in Japan, and you can find these games in almost any arcade in Japan. 100 yen will let you play 3 songs, but if you plan to play in North America, it's extremely difficult. You will need a controller for the game and the game. Both are extremely hard to get. Games like Taiko and Sound Voltex are pretty easy to play at home because the games are available on the internet and with controllers that range from $100 to $500, and they're pretty easy to get to. But the rest will go for $1,000 plus. Because usually you have to buy the actual arcade machine because there are no controllers and no ROMs of the game on the internet. The kind of people who don't play rhythm games are usually people who just aren't gamers or just aren't weebs. People in North America who play these games usually just want a challenge or they're a weeb. And in Japan there are about 10 million people in Japan who play rhythm games. I'm not too sure about that number. These are usually just teenage boys, businessmen, teenage girls, and kids. Usually the only people in Japan who don't play these games are elders. This has to be the worst video game genre ever created, and it's the most popular genre of games in Japan. Gacha games are very cheap to make, and usually they're just free games on mobile, mostly where you just collect kawaii anime girls, and you have to gamble for them. They make so much money. I've never played a gacha game, thank god, but from what I've heard, they have multiple different kinds of gacha games. So, there are turn-based gacha games on mobile similar to games like Final Fantasy, and then there are games like Candy Crush. It's really all I know. The games will make you purchase roles so you can gamble for anime girls and let them join your team for whatever game you're playing. And from what I've heard, they're extremely addicting, and extremely popular in Japan. I think the chances of you not seeing one person in Japan that isn't on their phone playing a gacha game is very, very unlikely. They're that popular. But like I said, I don't know much about them because the popular ones in Japan are not available to other countries. Some popular Japanese gacha games are Fate Grand Order, which has made over $2 billion worldwide and it's a free game, Granblue Fantasy, which has made $754 million. It's also a free game, Princess Connect Redive, Azur Lane, Fire Emblem Heroes, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, and Bang Dream Girls Band Party / Love Live School Idol Festival. And that's actually also a rhythm game, but it's more of a gacha game. The last genre I'm going to be talking about is RPG games. JRPG games are a very, very successful genre in Japan, and also in North America. There are games where you play a character in a fictional world, and they are usually all very different. There are turn-based RPG games like Dragon Quest where you play as a hero and get team members and travel around a very big world. There's the Final Fantasy series, the Chrono Trigger series, which is probably the best one, Kingdom Hearts, where you roleplay as Winnie the Pooh and fight against anime characters. Then there are the action RPGs, and there aren't that many popular action JRPG games. Like the only 2 I can really find on the internet and I know of are the Monster Hunter series, which is a series where you basically fight monsters with many different weapons, and that's about it. There's a story, but the story is really bad. Then there's the Dark Souls series, and the Dark Souls series is amazing. I've only played 2 of the games, but they were really good. They are difficult third-person games where you basically are just fighting with melee weapons or using sorcery against cool bosses, and that's about it. I'd say almost every casual Japanese gamer has played an RPG game. This is males and females that age from like 10 to 15. But as far as I know from my sources, not many elders or infants play Japanese role-playing games. But in North America, usually only weirdos play JRPG games. I mean, Dark Souls is pretty cool, and Dragon Quest, but that's about it.
This is my PlayStation 2. This is my Xbox One. This is my Xbox 360. And this right here is my PlayStation 3. And this is what I like to call the Nintendo Shit Cube. And the reason I call it the Nintendo Shit Cube, because it's a piece of fucking shit!
The fucking shit!
The original Nintendo Entertainment System sucked because you had to perform a certain amount of blowjobs on the cartridges in order for the games to work. And then Nintendo, they released their second console, the Super Nintendo. Now that was a good system. That was a very good system. The games did not freeze, and the games did not stop while you were playing. And then Nintendo, they released their third video game console, the Nintendo 64. Now that also was a very good system. It didn't have full motion video. It wasn't bad for a 90s system. And then Nintendo releases their fourth video game console, the Nintendo Shit Cube. Now the reason I call it the Nintendo Shit Cube is because take a look at the fucking game. This is a Nintendo GameCube game. This looks like a fucking chocolate chip cookie. And plus, what the fuck? Graphics by ATI. ATI, my ass! Alright, the Nintendo GameCube, it has good graphics, nice hardware, all that graphics, all that hardware, they made the fucking system so small that you cannot even play DVDs on it. Now, the PlayStation 2 sold more than the GameCube because it had a DVD drive. Like I said, the Nintendo GameCube, it has good graphics, good hardware, but the PlayStation 2 is way much more better than this god-awful piece of shit. And plus, if you look underneath your GameCube, you see that it has a separate modem. The modem is sold separately. But in the PlayStation 2, it had a built-in modem. Now, why the fuck would Nintendo make a modem for Nintendo GameCube if you cannot play online multiplayer games? And now I would like to show you the Nintendo Shitcube's wireless controller. This is the controller's wireless receiver. You just put it on the GameCube like this, as you would like a regular GameCube controller. And you have to put in batteries on the back and press on, but even when you have fresh batteries inside, guess what? The Shitcube's wireless controller, it's not good. It doesn't even work. The Nintendo Shitcube, it costs around $120. Do not buy it. There are a lot of better things you can buy with that kind of money. And who would want to buy the Nintendo Shitcube? Nobody likes it.